It was quite by accident that Margaret Henderson discovered what she claims is the male hormonal cycle. 2 years ago, she was investigating the emotional effects of hysterectomy operations on females. She worked out the pattern of their hormone cycles by use of the thermometer, taking their temperature every day and night over a period of months. It then occurred to her that men often seem to have the same problems of depression as women do, and at regular periods. So she conducted similar thermometer tests on 25 of their male partners. The results were startling. In all cases, for instance, the male had an ovulation pattern at exactly the same time as his female partner. If the cycles of the couples were synchronized, the marriage appeared to be going well. If through use of the pill or through illness, however, the cycles got out of phase with each other, then emotional difficulties seemed to unsettle the relationship.
It does appear that males and females need to cycle together, because the studies I've seen where they're not cycling together, there are a lot of disturbances, not in the female so much as in the male.
And what sort of thing happens? I mean, for instance, if the cycles aren't coinciding?
Well, in the pair studies that I've done, when the woman has been on the pill, now she is not cycling, although she gets a menstrual bleed. There's a flattened effect of her monthly period, and the male cannot keep track of her pill cycle, and he cycles at his own pace. And in those cases, I find that he is depressed, or he's drinking a lot, or he's very restless.
So that when the woman may be at a high point, when she's on the pill, the male could be the exact opposite, could be depressed.
Yes. Well, it's quite staggering to find this. It's more than I expected to find, and it worries me greatly, and makes me ask a whole lot more questions as to what is really behind our psychology. Is there a physiological basis for this sort of thing? Brian, these are the record books that you'll be keeping your records in, you and Geraldine. And also, these are your thermometers. These are your tools of trade that you'll be using. And what we do is, each day you fill out your temperatures at night and again in the morning, both your oral and your prostatic temperatures. Now, your prostatic ones are taken just by Bristol temperature.
Margaret's latest male guinea pig is Brian. Married for 8 years and then divorced, Brian is now living with another woman. From his own experience, he believes in the male cycle.
The best explanation I can give is I've always had an instinctive feeling that I did have a cycle.
How does it manifest itself?
Irritability, certainly in form of sexual drive. The fact that, although you feel that you've got a cycle, but you don't actually sit down and write it down somewhere, you know, and say, as I'm going to do now, take my temperature. You just feel, you are aware that sometime about a month ago you felt like this.
Like you felt
irritable, or I felt very, I used to drink very heavily, and that seemed to come in a cycle.
When you get a person being depressed or drinking too much or something like this, yeah, this does lead to marriage breakdown. And this is something I haven't studied, but I am aware that there are a lot of marriages, and other people, social workers have told me this, there are a lot of marriages that seem to break up after about a year of rather traumatic difficulty of trying to relate to each other, and in many cases these people have been on the pill, so it's certainly an area we have to look at.
But my wife was in a different position. She was
she on the pill?
Well, initially, when we were first married, yes, and then for short periods during the children, and after the last child was born. But we got we got a sort of an instinctive feeling that I couldn't explain then. Perhaps I can now. That we were out of phase.
How would you go about getting a male and female cycle to coincide and presumably have a successful relationship?
Well, I think that actually the male and the female cycle get into synchrony over a period of time. In the animal studies that indicate that there's a relationship between estrous cycles, that's been shown by Michael and Coburn and a few others to be related to the sense of smell. So I think that there's communication going on that enables people to synchronize. I think we'll find that eventually in the humans, that this is the mechanism that allows the cycles to synchronize. But also, there are hormonal ways we can probably learn to synchronize the cycles perhaps more quickly.
What, that the male might take some sort of drug?
I think this is possible, but this has got to be explored. Well, cheerio, Brian. Don't forget to Xerox that copy off and let me have it as soon as you've done that one page, okay?
If Margaret Henderson's findings are true, then as she says, the implications for a better understanding of human relationships are enormous. The next step in the experiment is to carry out a chemical analysis of the urine sample she's collected to see whether the results back up her thermometer tests. If they do, then the old headache argument will no longer be applicable only to women.